Shane, Georgia, number one Georgia, on the road at Mississippi State. The Georgia Bulldogs, I almost said Bulldogs, but that's confusing in this one. Georgia Bulldogs favored by 16 points on the road, over under 53.5 total points. This is a night game, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central on ESPN. And a game 2 years ago, Shane, it was real back and forth. They needed JT Daniels to have a career day to save them. They need the same from Stetson in Starkville. What do you think?
No.
As soon as I said that, I was like, I don't know where I'm going with it.
Yeah, no. I think we see a little bit more second half Georgia here, and a little bit more conservative play calling. I do like the fact that, and one of the overlooked stats is how productive the passing game is with the Georgia Bulldogs, but that's what they do. They get up early, then they just lean on the running game to take out, and that's exactly the formula that they're going to use during this one, Mike. I'm not convinced that there's any layover or let down or trap game or any of that. This team is dialed in. They want to be the best. They want to stay the best. And to do that, they're just going to go through whatever obstacle gets in their way. And unfortunately, it's going to be Mississippi State this week. So I'm not going to waste time sugarcoating this thing, Mike. This is going to be another beatdown from the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, the one thing about this is the gambling side. Part of me says, okay, Georgia's just going to come out here steamroll. I see there a situation that we're sitting there in the third quarter, late second quarter, and it's 28-0, and it you're not watching it. Nobody's watching the game.
Yeah.
But then Mississippi State does what Mississippi State does, and they make a couple of great plays, and they get back into the game for the gambling side, not an actual game. So I think they backdoored the spread here, but Georgia is just too dominant, and I think the worst thing that could have happened for Mississippi State is the fact that they just played Tennessee, and I know they're not exactly the same style of offense, but this is going to be some man-on-man matches, and Georgia's athletes are just better than Mississippi State's receivers. So give me Georgia 31, Mississippi State 17. Backdoor spreads this thing.
Man, you know what that is, folks? That's his Tennessee bias trying to get back one over on them Georgia Bulldogs.
I'm feeding them that rat poison, Mike. Nobody could touch these guys. They're just
I'm concerned, Shade, earlier in the season, Mississippi State. Now, if you just look at the final score of that Alabama game, it looked like they got whooped. But there was a lot of weird stuff in that game, some questionable play calling, some turnovers that, had Mississippi State been able to score early, I'm not saying it would have been a ball game, but it wouldn't have looked like they just got whooped in Tuscaloosa, even though they did score with the time expiring to not get shut out there. But what's concerning, Shane, is after that game, Mike Leach said, I think we're afraid of that team in that Alabama jersey. What's going to change here with Georgia? I mean, hell, they may not have historically the last decade or so been as dominant as Alabama, but we all know Georgia is just as dominant, if not more dominant now. So it may be a little bit different story. It's at home. You got the cowbells, but I would imagine, Shane, since they have not played in this venue in I can't remember the stat, but I think it's been over a decade here. So I think the Bulldogs from Athens are going to invade Starkville. They're known for doing this, Shane, taking the thing over. It's a sellout. Mississippi State's trying to stripe out the stadium. We'll see if they actually manage to do it. I do not know why, Shane, but Mississippi State is one of the lowest attended teams in the SEC this season. So
yeah,
a lot of tickets going to be available for them Georgia Bulldogs to come in. But, yeah, I mean, there's just not much to make of the matchup, Shane. Georgia's elite on offense, elite on defense. Mississippi State, your biggest, and I hate to even say it and put it this way, Shane, but your biggest opportunity in this ball game is if Georgia doesn't show up.
Yeah.
And if they play down to the level of the competition, and that's not trying to disrespect Mississippi State because they're probably going to have a winning record, and that is not something to overlook playing in the SEC West. But, you're at best a top 25 type team. Georgia is the elite of the elite. They should cruise to a victory here. I think they do it, and I think they mostly shut down Mississippi State, similar to Alabama. Give me Georgia 45, Mississippi State 10. This is my lock of the week, Shane. This 16 points, I don't get it at all. I think they'll be up by more than 16 by halftime.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, Mike, because this is a dialed-in team, and I think there is going to be a little bit down to earth with the Bulldogs. We saw a little bit of that with the Florida Gators. Maybe looking forward to that Tennessee matchup, but those guys were so dialed in. That fan base was so dialed in. Going down there, it just seems like naturally there's going to be a little bit of a letdown, but I don't think it's going to be that we're not going to see a ton of points. I still think Georgia's going to do what Georgia does, and that's move the ball, especially in the first half. I just think Kirby has a tendency to get conservative once he gets that lead to a certain point and keep his guys healthy, and I see it no different. So, yeah, I see a little noise in the second half, making it a little interesting for those bettors back home. But, yeah, that's the only reason I'm worried about the spread is just for that reason.
So you're saying Kirby is like the anti-Steve Spurrier?
No, he's like the anti-Lane Kiffin. You remember when he did that against Vanderbilt and he was trying to figure out what the spread was and he ended up – that's what he is. He's like, what is it? Okay, I want the under. I don't want people talking about us until it's on a national stage. So